There ain't no future unless we build it now. It's the future, there ain't no future unless we build it now. United States, Africa, we salute ya. A new state of mind, I introduce ya. Close your eyes and visualize the rise of a new paradigm. Solar powered skyscrapers.
Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, a podcast dedicated to inspiring African people worldwide to rise up, organize, and struggle for Pan-Africanism, a unified, liberated, socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of African people, no matter where they happen to be born or happen to live in the world. Now please, welcome the hosts of Africa Must Unite.
Africa's future is now, so get ready.
Greetings, people out there. This is Brother Terrence from the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party.
And this is Sister Tasha from the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. And
yes.
Africa Unite.
Podcast number 41. And this is so happened the African Liberation Day weekend as well. So all you out there who celebrating African Liberation Day, forward. So like we do at this time, Sister Tasha, let's get into some of those calendar dates in the month of May.
All right, so for the month of May, we're talking about strategy. And as I'm reading the calendar dates, I want us to think about the organizers, the founders of movements, and all of these things discussing strategy as we're reading these calendar dates. So on May 1st, we have the Howard University. It's founded in Washington, D.C. in 1860. HU. We also the apartheid in South Africa. It intensifies because you had racist subjugation by passing laws to imprison Africans without charge in 1963. That was that dominating and that controlling that was happening. On May 2nd, we have Nanny Helen Burroughs, an African educator that was born in 1876. She had this speech, How the Sisters Are Hindered from Helping. That's a must-hear speech. We also had Assata Shakur, who was attacked by the state troopers on the New Jersey Turnpike in 1973. And on that same day, Queen Mother Moore, a founder of the Republic of New Africa, died in 1997. Coming on May 3rd, we have Frederick O'Neill. He became the first president of the Revolutionary Trade Union for actors for the American Negro Theater in 1964. And then on May 4th, racist South African troops were massacred and wounded hundreds of Namibians in the refugee camp in Angola in 1978. I'm going to roll over to May 8th, where Afrikaans became the official language of South Africa in 1925. And then the African workers in the U.S. founded the Black Union of Railway Porters in 1926. Going on down to May 9th, we had John Brown, which was a militant European who attempted to free African slaves. He was born in 1800. Wow. May 10th, the founding of South African Student Organization. They were also called the SASO, and that was in 1969. On the 11th, we had Bob Marley, the progressive reggae musician. He died in 1981. And then we also had Nigeria's first president that died in 1996, too. And that was Nnamdi Azikiwe. Did I say that name right?
Azikiwe.
God,
yes.
All righty. And then also on May 14th, we had slavery was abolished in Denmark in 1792. It was also the date that the first Africans left England to return home to Africa to establish settlement in Sierra Leone in 1787. That following week, on May 16th, we had Max Gordon. He was the organizer of the American Trade Union in South Africa in the 1930s. He died in 1977. We also had Modibo Keita, which was a progressive first president of Mali. He died in 1977. And that same day, you had June Maline, which was Kwame Nkrumah's literary exclusive, died on this day in 2018. That wasn't that long ago either.
No.
We also had on May 17th, racist U.S. justice system outlawed racial segregation in schools with the Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. That same day, we also had E. Franklin Frazier, which was an African socialist. He died in 1962. On May 18th, we had Mary McLeod Bethune. She was an African educator. She died in Florida in 1955. And on that same day, we had T. Hanyiko, commander of the People's Liberation Army of Namibia, that was killed in a battle in 1967. Going on the 19th, which was this week, Ho Chi Minh was born in 1890, and also Malcolm X, Pan-African champion, was born in 1925. Moving on down to May 23rd, we had feudalism, and King Kabuka was overthrown in Uganda in 1966. On the 24th, racial segregation in Washington, D.C. Restaurants was ruled illegal in 1951. So that segregation was ruled illegal that day. And then also we had 27 civil rights activists, freedom riders. They were all arrested in Jackson, Mississippi on that same day in 1961. On the 25th of May, the formation of the Organization of the African Unity, which is the OAU, the African Liberation Days, what you were talking about, Terrence, in 1963. Also, on the 28th, we had U.S. Congress expel Native American Indians from all land east of the Mississippi in 1830. That same day, Sojourner Truth, an American freedom fighter, attended the Women's Rights Conference in 1851. And then that same day, Maya Angelou, distinguished author, she died in 2014. And finally, in May 29th, George Washington ordered the U.S. Army to destroy the Iroquois Indian Nation in 1779. And then that was also the day that Frederick Jones patented a two-cycle gas engine in 1945. So those calendar days were all in May.
Yeah, May is another powerful month of history events and history makers. I would just like to add, Tasha, also on May 15th, we celebrate International Solidarity Day for Palestine. We would be remiss to not, bring that up in this month as the Zionist movement continues to push forth and land theft of the Palestinian people right now in that part of the world. So we don't want to call it a conflict because it's really not a conflict. It's still into the land. It's settler colonialism. It's ethnic cleansing. And it continues. So we want to stand in solidarity with Palestine as well as all oppressed people around the world today. All right. Yes, moving on here. So Sister Tasha brought it up a few minutes ago. This month's theme is strategy. And when we talk about strategy as a revolutionary organization, our strategy, the PRSP and other revolutionary organizations out there, the strategy is organization. So when it comes to being organized, then you look toward certain individuals and certain organizations that have shown us the way, who have been prime examples in doing that. So we look no further than the UNIA and the accomplishments of Amy Ashwood Garvey, along with Amy Jock Garvey, as well as Marcus Garvey. So I just want to read a little bio and a quote from Amy Ashwood Garvey first. Amy Ashwood said, "Our joint love for Africa and our concern for the welfare of our race urged us on to immediate action. Together, we talk over the possibility of founding an organization to serve the needs of people of African origin. We, Amy and Marcus Garvey, spent many hours deliberating what exactly our aim should be and what means we should employ to achieve those aims. Out of this lengthy tete-a-tete, we finally improvised a policy and formulated a program for our infant organization. In fact, the two-member movement was Christian, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and African Communities Imperial League. They later dropped the Imperial. So that was Amy Ashwood's quote. Those who don't know, Amy Ashwood Garvey was a staunch Pan-Africanist and the first wife of Marcus Garvey. She spent her life organizing on an international scale for liberation of African people, and together she and Marcus Garvey co-founded the UNIA, ACL. And then a quote from Marcus Garvey here. He said, "The greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization." And that couldn't be more truer today. Marcus Garvey, along with his first wife, Amy Ashwood Garvey, established the greatest Pan-African mass organization in the world. The Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League was founded in 1914. Through his untiring efforts and those of all members of the UNIACL, many African enterprises and auxiliaries were established. Some examples include the Buy Black campaign, the Black Star Line, the Negro Factories, the Red, Black, and Green Liberation Flag, and the African Orthodox Church. So, just two individuals representing a mighty, mighty organization when it comes to effectively identifying the strategy of revolutionary organizations, which is organizing. So, Sister Tasha, you want to elaborate a little bit more on the UNIA?
Sure. Before I do that, I did want to just kind of go off of what you just said too about these strong Garveys. And you know, they always say, alongside every man stands a strong woman. So I love that teamwork that they have contributed, and we continue to learn and study based off of their work. So I really thank the Garveys for that, both. All right, so talking about the UNIA, so where they birthed from was just enraging at the suffering of his people. On July 14th, 1914, Marcus Garvey, which was a young Jamaican activist, also Amy Ashwood, as you said previous, organized the Universal Negro Improvement Association, as well as the African Communities League. So they called those the UNIA and the ACL. The UNIA was designed to rebuild a positive social, cultural, psychological, and political life for African people around the world. The ACL was created to establish economic stability and independence in the African communities of the world. So Amy Ashwood, she wrote, "Our love for Africa and our concern for the welfare of our race urged us on to immediate action." So the UNIA, the ACL, saw land as a key to the liberation of an oppressed people and for the organization. The only rightful land base that belonged to African people was Africa. Garvey wrote, "We are determined to solve our own problems by redeeming our motherland, Africa, from the hands of alien exploiters and found therein a government, nation of our own, strong enough to lend protection to the members of our race scattered all around the world and to compel the respect of the nations and races of the earth." And so thus begun from there the effort of the UNIA ACL to organize for liberation under the leadership of Marcus Garvey. So the organization established the Negro World newspaper, which was read globally and even smuggled into the apartheid state of South Africa. There was the legal and also the Black legionaries, who were the UNIA's army in training. There were also medical corps. They had women, also called the Black Cross nurses. So the women stood strong right alongside the men in this struggle. The UNIA had members throughout the world, numbering in millions. By the mid-1920s, there was over 1,100 UNIA branches in more than 40 countries throughout the Caribbean, Europe, South America, North America, and in Africa. Included in the group were Elijah Muhammad, who later became the leader of the Nation of Islam, and who was also the parents of Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali.
Wow. That's very interesting there. So that was the UNIA, and we know the UNIA was established over 100 years ago in 1914. And they in that organization, we learn from. We take from what they've done. We try to continue that need to organize because we know that has to be the strategy for our ultimate liberation, which is Pan-Africanism. So that total unification and liberation of Africa under African socialist, scientific socialist government will only happen through revolutionary organization. So one of the things we want to, the next thing we want to discuss are just some reasons that it's a necessity to organize. And first reason is example setters. So just like Amy Jock and Amy Ashwood and Marcus Garvey, we have other example setters of organization. King, Fannie Lou Hamer, Kwame Nkrumah, Ahmed Sekou Touré, Harriet Tubman, etc. All great people who we seek to honor and emulate are all associated with some organization or organizational activity. One of the greatest examples is Malcolm X, who, as he becomes conscious, is never outside of organization. So he goes from the Nation of Islam to the Muhammad Muslim Mosque Incorporated, and to the OAAU, the Organization of Afro-American Unity.
Okay. So another reason for you to organize is also examine the enemy, know your enemy. There's a saying out there that says, make sure that you keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. So know exactly what your enemy is strategizing. Mayo says that we should support what the enemy opposes and oppose what the enemy supports. This relative truth can be applied to the enemy's relentless effort to keep our people unorganized. So thus, this would also stress for us the importance for us to have organization. Our enemy knows how important that this is. This is why our enemy puts so much energy and resources into keeping us this particular way, which is unorganized. So furthermore, our enemy is thoroughly organized in its effort to continue to exploit and push capitalism upon us and our people. So some examples of those are like the FBI, the CIA. Of course, we know right now the police department, the media, some of our educational institutions as well. So it is important that we must organize in order to make sure that our enemy is free from us.
All right. Sister Tasha, you mentioned the word enemy several times. We want to make sure people are clear. When we say the enemy, we ain't talking about the European or the Asian or something to that effect. We are talking about this system of capitalism and its manifestations, its tentacles. So capitalism, we talking imperialism, we talking settler colonialism, we talking neo-colonialism, we talking gender oppression, we talking classism, we talking national oppression, aka racism. So we are very clear on who we think the enemy is. So we want to make sure people understand that. The next one, another reason for organization is unity presupposes organization. And what we mean by that is it takes organizational activity to unite the people. Understanding that the only real unity is ideological unity. Unity that guides us to free ourselves. Everyone agrees that we must unite, so then let's organize to do it. Only revolutionary organization can properly educate people to make them ideologically aware. And I just want to add to that point is crucial. So when you see certain people that, they put out here in front of you, every rally, every, struggle that happens, you see certain people out speaking. you also want to see if they're tied to an organization. And more importantly, are they tied to an organization that is studying? Because if people are studying, they can see what happened before and can make these connections and properly plan the next steps. You see that certain people who are paraded out in front of you as leaders are not in an organization studying, because they just skip necessary steps. They don't make those necessary connections. So it is crucial that in organizations, people are properly educated and ideologically aware.
So, Brother Terrence, as you're talking about these leaders that are placed in front of people, organizations, they can also be leaders as well. So not just that particular person standing up there, but the organization that they're a part of. Just make sure that those organizations are also meaningful organizations that are really for the fight against capitalism, against the exploitation of our people. So organizations, they can create leaders, which come from the people. Organizations are also more difficult for the enemy to destroy. It takes a bullet to kill one leader. Then also, a leader should be revolutionary today, but reactionary tomorrow. It's more difficult for an organization to switch like this because of the political awareness of the rank and file who have internalized the organization's principles, goals, and etc. So it is extremely important for those leaders to not only just be leaders standing in front of people, but also for the appropriate cause. Because you can have puppet leaders in front of you as well.
The line that a leader can be revolutionary today and reactionary tomorrow, I got to call some of these people out. And the first person to come to mind is like Bobby Seale, the co-founder of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. He sells barbecue right now, and, he's just backwards in his thinking. And you had others too. So it's just, that being tied to that revolutionary organization will keep you grounded in the movement and not, switch so quickly. All right. Another crucial reason for revolutionary organization is that no entity can better express the collective anger, will, aspirations, goals of the people and have any significant degree of impact on social life than an organization guided, of course, by revolutionary theory. Individuals, no matter how genuine their actions are, can come nowhere close to matching this. So you gotta have that revolutionary theory to help guide your intentions and your actions.
And it comes from, just like you said, Brother Terrence, just that education. Because if you are miseducated, then you won't have that fury. But if you look back into history and you see some of the things that we're talking about to make these connections, then you would have that drive and that fury so that you can continue to make this work purposeful. Also, to organize in order to realize permanent ideas is far better and more scientific than to mobilize in order to resolve temporary issues. Capitalism is our enemy, no doubt. It encourages and it even engenders the ladder of our development. So it's important that we know and internalize that capitalism is our enemy. So we must organize in that way to realize that this is something that we need to change, and we have to do it through organization.
Yeah, it's those permanent ideas that have got to keep you focused and grounded. If not, you'll be bouncing around from police brutality to any $15 an hour on wage. The capitalism wants you to bounce left, right to left on temporary issues, as opposed to tying all those temporary issues to the bigger problem, which is what the system is producing. So definitely powerful point. Another reason is we want people to know it is better to leave the people before one dies with something permanent and tangible, such as a revolutionary organization completely dedicated to the destruction of our enemy and the permanent liberation of our people, than something intangible and temporary. Tradition of struggling for every issue that our enemy produces in order to absorb our time and energy. So that ties into the previous point you just mentioned. Those temporary issues will absorb our time and energy and keep us not focused on the permanent and tangible solution, which is revolutionary organization.
Mm-hmm. And it also, Brother Terrence, it makes me think about what Nkrumah said when he said it might not be in his history. He might not see this happening, but he knows he's going to set these things in place before he does die so that the movement can keep on going, even past his.
That's a good point.
All right, another reason for your necessity to organize is burnout. It's better for those who will burn themselves out due to their lack of clarity to do so in this activity geared towards something that will definitely outlast them or an organization rather than an organizing for something that's temporary. And that was similar to your point, Brother Terrence, that you said about making sure that we don't absorb all of our energy into things that are temporary. So sometimes that temporary absorption can burn us out before we even got to the real problem.
Absolutely. And I just want to... Go ahead. No, I just wanted to say that sometimes those can burn us out, and you never got to that real gist of what the issue was in the first place. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to add about the clarity part. We're not saying these militants are not clear in what it is that they're fighting for. We believe that sometimes militants do way too much work by themselves, and that's key. You know, you can, if you bouncing here, you're going there, and you steady doing all this by yourself, it's easier to burn out as opposed to being part of that revolutionary organization. It is key that organizations guard against spontaneity because they are able to analyze, assess, and plan. So again, being part of that organization, that constant study, that the constant meeting, you are able to analyze, assess, and plan accordingly instead of just being that individual running around.
It's kind of like a lesson plan in school, Brother Terrence. If you don't have that lesson plan studied and organized and ready, then that lesson might not go as planned. So you have to plan for things that you don't know that's going to happen. You have to plan for the questions that children may ask. So you have to have everything planned and ready. You can't just jump up and say, all right, well, I'm going in here just to teach this lesson. It has to be studied. It has to be organized. It has to be analyzed, assessed, planned out.
Definitely.
Yeah. Which brings me to the point of education. Only an organization can properly educate the people, which is so desperately needed. As Malcolm X stated, the schools and universities of the capitalist society are skillfully designed to miseducate our people. Yeah. That also brings me to the point, right? That also brings me to the point of just thinking of reading Kwame Ture when he talked about at Howard University and how the marches just wasn't enough for him. He said he needed more exposure. And as he was exposed to, like when Malcolm X came to the campus, like that was one powerful thing that just stayed with him. And so him having that piece of education and getting that exposure really made him progress forward and think about things differently.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely key. And finally, our final reason for the necessity of organization is revolutionary organization itself. Only an organization that has as its objective the complete and destruction of capitalism and all of its manifestations can permanently rid our people of their exploitation and oppression. So, we have these examples. So we must continue. There are, we did a calendar theme last year. We had invited guests last year on these same revolutionary organizations that are continuing to fight and struggle for our people. So they're out there. We encourage people. We say it every month to find you a revolutionary organization to be involved in. And if not, you create your own. So
yeah,
we definitely...
Brother Terrence, I think about myself sometimes. I'm not the greatest stand-up speaker, but and just to tell the people out there, you may not have that speaker voice in front of other people. You might not have that radical tenacity or that debating skill, but joining an organization, it's important that people hear your voice still. And it's more than one person working. So just organizing and what you have to say is important. And you are actually like living, you live in this reality. And so it's important that your voice is heard. So please organize, find an organization to become part of so that you can make a difference to rid us from this capitalist society.
All right. All right, Sister Tasha, what's coming in these subsequent months?
So in subsequent months, at the Times, with the help of invited guests, we will discuss various revolutionary messages from our warriors guided to uplift African people.
All right. Join us next month, people, where we highlight the messages from the great Ida B. Wells and Frederick Douglass around the topic of tactics. Also, and it's very crucial here because we're making an adjustment from previous podcasts. We usually tell people to visit us at our website, prspponline.org. No, this time we are telling you to visit our new website, which you just have to type in the entire name. So Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party.org. So I know it's a lot to type, but please come visit us at the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party.org. Also, email us, criticism, if need be, feedback, coalition building if necessary. Email us at panafricanrsp@gmail.com. I'll say that again, panafricanrsp, that's one word, @gmail.com. Like us on SoundCloud, visit us on YouTube, and also leave comments on our Facebook page. We have, I think you can go to www.facebook.com and enter Pan-African Socialists, and you should see us.
Yep. And remember, organization is the key. Join us, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, or some other revolutionary Pan-African Socialist organization. A union of African socialist states is on the horizon.
Yes, we have to organize. Do away with all the lies. They coming with the Magnum, the Glock, and the 45. In between the protests, we protest and realize. Yes, we have to organize. Do away with all the lies. They coming with the tear gas and Glocks and the 45. In between the protests, we protest and realize. Realize that we have already been here before. Protests in the streets cause we see and we all at war. Burning police cars and we shooting, looting these stores. You may not agree, but you see they changing these laws. The only thing they understand now is a city burning. They acting like they shocked with these cops, they just learning. Seeing Mr. Floyd on the ground, it got them squirming. Now we can see they are the Nazis, we the German blacks. Organize. Do away with all the lies. They coming with the Magnum, the Glock, and the 45. In between the protests, we protest and realize. Yes, we have to organize. Do away with all the lies. They coming with the tear gas and Glocks and the 45. In between the protests, we protest and realize. Yeah, we always wake up and then we go back to sleep again. In between the protests is when we be getting weak again. We hear about the loot and another shooting this week again. This gives the police another excuse to hit the streets again. White police, black population can never be a friend. Our mothers and our fathers and our families, they be seizing them. They the overseers, we the SLAVEs to them. We gotta rise to the level where we ain't needing them. Everybody organize. Do away with all the lies. They coming with the Magnum, the Glock, and the 45. In between the protests, we protest and realize. Yes, we have to organize. Do away with all the lies. They coming with the tear gas and Glocks and the 45. In between the protests, we protest and realize. Yes, you have to follow me. It's my philosophy that white law monopoly makes democracy hypocrisy. In a capitalist economy, it's no democracy. I demand the return of my sovereignty, no apology, independence, autonomy. No need to mommy me. I could run my own country if you could just stop bombing me. Give me my land back, give me my gold back, my heritage, my birthright. You outright stole that. Organize. organize, organize, organize. Do away with all the lies, all the lies, all the lies. They coming with the Magnum, the Glock, and the 45. In between the protests, we protest and realize. Yes, we have been organized, organized, organized. Do away with all the lies, all the lies, all the lies. They coming with the tear gas, Glocks, and 45. In between the protests, we protest and realize.